So I was in the shower, I was cleaning my ass and making all sure all sparkly, spanky clean.
I'm not the funny one, I'm the pretty one.
Cock shots. I just checked myself out.
Candles, music, wine, and then lube up and get on top.
The glory hole's like a big theater. I've imagined your family.
Which means your pants had better come off. Mama needs playtime.
We're not sluts.
We just love love. Hello, everyone. Haha, I beat you to it.
Damn it.
Anyway, this is Mrs. Atom.
And this is Mr. Atom, right? That's who I am. Yes, that's who I am.
Yes. Last time I checked.
Well, last time I checked, if I'm not, I'm wearing the wrong underwear. You found us here at By the By, and welcome back.
Yeah.
So how you been? What do you think of our new intro music? It's the same intro music, but it's new still to us. This is our third episode in which we've had it.
It's very exciting.
I love it still.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna do like a special episode. This is all about kinks and fetishes and whatnot, and some of our experiences with. But before we get to that,
would you like to tell us about your date last night?
Yes, I had a date last night. It was my first time with a guy in 2 months.
It's crazy.
Something like 2 months. I don't know. It felt like
It's
forever.
been a while.
It's been a long fucking time. Because let me tell you, pegging is great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But there's something about the real thing. I mean, any woman who has used a dildo knows. Any man who's used a fleshlight knows. Once you go real, you never go back.
Yeah. It's a fair substitute, but it's not the same.
It's true. Yeah, so I had a really good date last night. I showed up at his place, I don't know, around 5:30. And, he did the obligatory show me around the apartment. And it was great. Honestly, we went up, he showed me both bedrooms, and we went back downstairs, and I thought, oh, well, this isn't going to happen. We're going to wait till after the
Wait, he
date.
Showed you both bedrooms, and then you left?
And then we went back downstairs to the couch. Yeah. He'd offered me a beer, because it was trivia night, so I was meeting some of his friends.
Yes.
And so I thought, oh, well, after trivia, that's when we'll,
Right.
But we sit down on the couch, and he sits down right next to me, leg to leg, and it was both hot and sweet at the same time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one thing leads to another, ... We're making out on the couch like we're in high school again, which I don't even remember high school. But I was trying to figure it out along the way.
So it's like high school all over again then.
It really, yeah, except I'm actually getting laid this time.
Excellent. Improved high school.
It's
new and improved.
High school 2.0. No, yeah, it was great. And then, we went upstairs and fooled around, and he's hot.
He's really cute.
He's hot.
At least from what I've seen. I have not met him in
person. He's one of those people that is kind of enthralling. He's intelligent, and he's a talented musician, and he's intelligent, which is so rare for guys. We actually met on Grindr, and intelligence. I don't want to knock the people of Grindr, but guys, you got to step it up a notch. But yeah, he is a great guy and has a fantastic ass. Like, it's grabbable and squeezable, and it's like a wonderful stress ball.
I feel like I should see this ass.
I think you should. I don't think he's...
I probably will never ever see this ass, but yeah,
I
I can
don't
dream.
know.
I can hope.
I can describe it. No, but yeah, it was sweet, and you have to clean up afterwards because you tend to be a mess. Because so we showered together, and it was just great conversation. It wasn't just like one of those nasty hookups that you hang your head and walk out of the room, and it was good. So, yeah, I actually hope to see more of him.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, yeah, yay.
Maybe a new regular play partner. We'll have to see.
Yeah, yeah, it's I like all of my play partners, but it's hard to. I'm finding it's difficult to manage time. Managing time is a tough thing because I want to give you the lion's share, but at the same time you don't want to let anyone feel neglected, and it's a lot more effort and work than I think that anybody people I think honestly misjudge how much effort goes into polyamory specifically, but swinging in general.
Well, it's also a matter of just trying to get everyone's schedules to mesh up because everybody has a busy life.
Absolutely.
And you try to get, your schedule, couple schedules to mesh up with somebody else, and then somebody else, and another couple, and blah, 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 and it just gets exponentially harder and harder.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Hashtag swinger problems.
Somehow, we mostly manage.
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't know how.
Though we still haven't played with a couple, and we had a really nice date last weekend, and we're hoping to see him.
That'll come to fruition
in the near future.
It's a matter of time.
Again, it's all about meshing, whatever. We get to see Danny and Sandy tomorrow.
Yes. That's exciting.
Will that be a pants off party or will it?
They're
spending the night here, right?
It depends on. They're staying the night. It depends on how much.
Take advantage of them in the morning.
It depends on how much drinking goes on.
There's gonna be a lot of drinking.
It's probably gonna be more of a morning thing.
I'm okay with that.
We'll see. Yeah.
I am a morning sex kind of guy. I wake up at attention.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've played with them, so that's exciting.
It's been a while since we played with anyone.
Yeah, couples have been harder. Yeah.
Myself. I'm not gonna sing anymore, both because it's horrific and because I don't want to pay the rights.
Right. Wrong. I don't know.
It's yes, just yes. So yeah, that's what's new. God, it was a good date. We sat. So he's a lot like you. In that you're a toucher. Mrs. Adam is a toucher. She's all handsy, and we go out anywhere, and she's like constantly groping on me. I mean, it's great. I love it, but it's
not like I have my hands down his pants, but
no, but they're everywhere else. They're everywhere else down my pants. And you have had a bad habit of putting your hands down the back of my pants. I can remember a couple of middle fingers that lay right across the crack, like in the quarter slot.
I don't even realize I'm doing that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Trust me. So we were at trivia with his friends, and it was nice because we're sitting there, and he's got his arm around me, and I'm all cuddly, and
that's cute.
And and hand holding and touching, which is funny because his friends are also partners that I noticed touched very little, but they've been partners for a very long time, I think.
Well, I think you and I tend to be
we're touchers,
more touchy than many of our friends are.
I would agree with that.
And it's interesting if he's as much of a toucher, then I can definitely see that.
He is as much of a toucher as we are, which is really kind of nice. It's comforting.
That is nice.
There's that. It's nice to have that sort of physical confirmation of affection, for me at least. And I know you feel that way.
Yeah.
And he and I have yet to discuss it, but it was good. I think I have a feeling we will discuss it because, he at least texted me today and said how much fun he had and blah, 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 which I'm still surprised at because I look at him, I'm like, dude, really? Look at me. Ugh. Anyway.
You don't give yourself enough credit.
Whatever. Maybe I do give myself enough credit. I just feel like I've been overdrawn. See what I did there?
Terrible.
That was funny.
No, that was terrible.
It was funny.
You can think it is, but no, that was terrible.
Help me out, people. Hashtag Mr. Adam is funny.
He usually is. That one.
Oh yeah. So
might not have been so much.
Yeah, good. It was a good night. And it was a good night. So yeah.
So what are we going to talk about tonight?
What are we going to talk about tonight? So we've had recently a request from somebody on Twitter that we talk about kink and kinky and our kinks and whatnot. And while I'll be honest, I sort of feel like that's what this podcast is all about. I think I know what the request was directed towards, and that was specific specific, that's a hard word for me, specific kinks. So I think what we should start with is about within the last 3 months. Maybe it's been longer than that. We'll say within the last 3 months. We went to something in Sydney, a meetup, a get together called Tryst. We were advised on it from a couple of friends that we have that are in the swinger community and are part of the Grade 8. If you don't know what the Grade 8 is, that's where we had 8 people on a bed. Epic. That's another story, though. That's another podcast. So they apparently have been to Tryst multiple times and invited us to go along with them. And so we sign up saying, yes, we'll go. And it starts out with a munch.
Yes.
And I actually had no idea where the word munch came from. So while Mrs. Adam was doing a little bit of research for some of the questions and things we're going to be talking about later on in the podcast, I researched the word munch. Look, I'm doing research now. This podcast just got real.
Wow.
I know. Okay.
Serious.
So apparently, munches started in the early 1990s. With the advent of the web, and if anyone out there is as old as I am, and they remember the internet that sounded like this, that's not a.
Wait. We need to hear that internet again. What did it sound like? Don't forget the crackles. You have to get the crackles.
That's right. That's what the internet used to sound like, children. I know, I was fucking there. And then you'd be downloading something that would be a whole 1.5 megabytes, and it would take 9 hours.
Oh, you just start it before you go to bed and get it when you wake up.
But then your fucking mom would pick up the phone, and you'd be like, Mom, why are you picking up the phone? I don't know why I sound like Cartman.
We're clearly different ages, because for me it was my husband picked up the phone.
I'm older than you.
I still had dial-up in college.
I did too. Oh my god. Wow, we just dated ourselves. Well, kids, back in our days, a condom was a plastic bag, and you used to get it from the grocery when the grocer asked you paper or plastic.
Well, I think it's very clear by now that we're not in our 20s anymore.
Oh, God, no. I'm so glad I'm not in my 20s.
I was going to say, honestly, I'm thankful for it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, so these Usenets were what we used to call bulletin boards. And you would go on and you would see these big text message. It was think of Reddit in the Stone Age. That's basically what it was. It was like Reddit, but it was back in the day. So basically, this all started in San Francisco, of course. Thank you, SFO. And there was a group which is hilarious, because when I saw this group, I was like, holy shit, I was 12 and going to their site, which was alt.sex.bondage. That was one of the sites that I was at. At 12, I stumbled across it and was like, oh my god, this is amazeballs. And I remember reading the stories. I remember learning about the word mistress, because I thought that was just a woman that you had on the side in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Epic. Anyway, so what they ended up doing was they decided to have this get-together that they posted on their bulletin board, and they were having it at Kirk's Steak Burgers in Palo Alto.
Okay.
Which we've both been to Palo Alto. I don't know if Kirk still exists, but I now totally want to go there. So they called it the Burger Munch. And so they chose Kirk's apparently because it had a nice outdoor patio area, and you could go, and it was kind of private, but you could go and get rowdy and have some drinks and talk with people who were like-minded.
Right.
Very much like you look at Our Secret Spot or Arrows or the Couples Club. That's kind of like what it was. You would go there not to actually, you wouldn't wear your fetish wear or whatever, but you would get there and you would talk to people who
Like-minded people.
Yeah. It was like that, which I look back at that now, I'm like, God, that was awesome. That was the early to mid 90s.
Yeah. Everybody wants to feel part of a community, though. You want to be part of something.
It makes me happy.
Yeah.
So that's where Burger Munch started, and then apparently that Burger Munch in San Francisco was shortened to Munch, but they also had some Burger Munches in Boston in 1994 that were held at Mr. Bartley's Burger Cottage in Harvard Square. You park your car in Harvard Yard, and then you go to a Munch. I don't know. I'm not from Boston. I don't do accents, folks. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
anyway.
You should hear his Australian accent.
No, you shouldn't. There's a shark in the water. There's a shark in the water. I'm going to have to cut that later.
No, I think we should leave it.
God damn it.
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
'Cause I know I can't do it.
It's right.
Mine's even worse. I'm just going to stick with American.
Dude, I just learned that the road at the end of the street, we were calling it wrong. It's just like, anyway, whatever.
We clearly put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Yeah.
Anyway, so if you're not from Australia, there's this great little train station that we used to get off at called Atarman. We used to call it Arterman.
Because it's spelled like
That's
Arterman.
how it's spelled Arterman. But if you're from the States, we know how to talk. Anyway, so we'll move on. So that's where Munch came from. So that was a long ramble. I apologize. But that's the origin of the word Munch. And so what you'll find is in the kink community, there's a lot of munches, and they all are these social gatherings where usually fetish wear or any kind of bondage wear is prohibited, but the point is you go there and you meet and you talk to people and you make friends. So the Munch we went to, you go in, we got some drinks with our friends. We got you go and you pay your dues for this Munch, and then the after party, and then you get a bracelet of a different color. And as I recall, if you didn't have a bracelet, that meant you weren't willing to play. If you had a certain color, you wanted to play, but you were a top, and if you another color, if you wanted to play, you were a bottom. I don't remember the colors, but let's assume
I don't remember either.
Yellow was top and blue was bottom, because I can remember that. So by top we mean that you were a dominant. You're the giver of the experience, and the bottom, you're the receiver. You're the sub, the receiver of the experience. And if you don't know, scenes are what get played out, and we'll talk more about some of the scenes we saw. But a scene is where you have 2+ people, and something is happening in that scene. Something is happening by the tops to the bottoms or the subs. So I thought for me the Munch was good. It was nice to see the people, but it was kind of cliquish.
I thought it was very cliquish, and I can understand, because I don't really know, but in my mind, to explain the cliquishness, I pretend that the people haven't seen each other in a while, and so it's like, oh, hey, haven't caught up in a while, blah, 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 and so you want to talk to these particular
of course.
people.
You have friends, and you want to...
Right,
yeah.
And so that's how I see it in my mind.
Plus, we weren't wearing bracelets.
No, we weren't.
So that would mean that we weren't looking to play that night. You and I, we wanted to be merely observers.
We wanted to check it out and see what it was like, and not yet participate. But that being said, still, at the Munch, we were sitting at a table that was fairly central.
Yeah, it was right in the center of the fucking bar.
And table space was at a premium, and so there was, a couple that came up, and they had burgers and whatnot, and they were going to eat dinner before going, and so they wanted a seat, and so we offered them a seat and whatnot, and then they just proceeded to basically turn their back towards us and talk on their own.
Yeah, you even tried to talk to them.
And I tried to start a conversation when they first sat down, but it became very clear they didn't want to. So it's like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, which is odd in this kind of community.
I thought it was a bit odd, and then there were a couple other times, like when I went to the restroom. And there was a lady, we were washing our hands together at the same time, whatever. She had on a very pretty dress, and I tried to strike up a conversation with her, and she was very clearly disinterested. So I was like, meh, okay, fine, whatever. Yeah. And the thing, too, I would reiterate, which I don't know that you necessarily touched on, is that basically the entire restaurant was booked out for the Munch.
True. I didn't.
So it was not like some people were Munch people, some people weren't.
Yeah.
The whole restaurant was Munch people.
The entire place was booked out for the Munch.
And so you know that
and
everyone...
there was probably 60 to 75.
Pretty full.
It was a lot of people in that.
Like I said, seating space was at a premium. And so you know that pretty much anyone there is most likely going to the event later on, or they're at least interested in into the same type of thing. And so it was kind of interesting, the lack of conversation that we had with people, even when you would try to initiate something.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, admittedly, I didn't. It's funny because once we get talking, I'm the extrovert, but you're the one that you're the icebreaker.
Yeah.
You like to break the ice, whereas I'm the ice breaky.
You then pick it up and roll with it.
Yeah, I can pick it up and roll with it, but I'm not good at breaking the ice. But yeah, we didn't really talk to anybody other than our friends at that. And and there was a lot of very attractive people. There were a lot of people that I would have said are not my type, but I'm sure are somebody's type. But it was
always interesting to look at.
Always, yeah. It's good
because there's all different kinds.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating to me.
So after or during the Munch, at some point, we were handed a slip of paper that had the address of where the party would then go to, which I kind of love that. That for me revolves around those old speakeasy style parties. It's you have to know the password. You have to have an in. You're not invited unless you're actually invited, and I really like that. So we were handed our slip of paper, and then we went back to our friend's house so they could change. They have some fetish wear that they were going to wear, and I don't remember what we wore. I'm sure we looked nice, but
I think I had on a leather top, probably some pants or a skirt.
You did. You had
something.
The bustier or the corset, the steampunk corset on. You were wearing the steampunk corset. I was probably wearing either a black.
I think you were wearing black jeans,
white.
but I don't remember what top.
Yeah, I have a habit of wearing. I have a black striped shirt that I like to wear, and a white solid shirt that I like to wear for first times because they're snaps. #easy access.
Just
I think I'm
rip it right
overusing
off.
hashtag. I don't know. I really like saying hashtag because I think it's funny, but perhaps it's not funny. Am I running it into the ground? Am I jumping the shark with a hashtag? Anyway, I don't care. This is my podcast. Excuse me. Our podcast. She gave me the eyes, folks.
It's okay. We'll make up for it later.
I hope so. Yeah, I've been properly primed now.
Thank you. Date last night. I don't even know your name, but whoever you are, thank you.
Yeah, we haven't given him a name. Let's make sure he sticks around before we give him a name.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just getting a little warm over here. What were we talking about?
Munch. Then we went back to our friend's house so they could change.
So they could change into their accoutrement.
Yep.
And then we shared a taxi to the Munch, to Tryst, which is the actual party. We walk in. It was kind of, I have to admit, it was one of those, you're walking off the street and you're like, we're going to die.
Why?
I don't know. It was
Why
dark.
did you get that feeling?
I don't know. It was dark and scary. It was like near a gas station. We'll have to be realistic. What's near a gas station?
The area where it was, maybe. I
Yeah,
thought you meant
that's
like
what I
after
meant.
you walked in.
No.
Oh,
I meant
okay.
no. Before we walked in, it was like all graffiti and big. I can't say it without sounding country. Big iron doors. Don't judge me. Anyway, but we walked in, and what were your, like, when you walked in, what was your first thoughts that you had?
So my very first thought as we walked in was, what was right in front of me was the counter, where you can get a drink or a snack or whatever.
It was BYO, right? So we could have...
It was.
We could have brought alcohol.
Right.
We didn't.
No. But you can also buy stuff. They had some snacks and things as well.
Yeah.
So that was right in front of me, and it was kind of... I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't either. That's
so
true.
It was...
Ooh, look, a gift shop.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, sure, yeah. And what I didn't see, because there was a little bit of a wall or a partition or something to my left, and I didn't see it until much, much later, but on the other side of that wall or partition on the left-hand side was an actual coat rack where you could hang up your coat and purse and whatever.
I never saw that.
I only saw it after we'd been there for several hours and probably close to the time of leaving. We didn't have on any kind of coats or anything like that, but at the same time, if we had perhaps dressed up a little more, we might have.
True.
And I didn't even know that was there, so it didn't occur to me.
Good to know for the future.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me at the time, but it was one of those, note to self, that's where it is in case we need it next time kind of thing. So I didn't even, when we walked in, I just completely ignored whatever was over there and didn't even see it.
I don't remember seeing it or at all, so that's good to good to know for the next time, I suppose.
So it was just, like I said, the kind of little food counter, drink counter type thing. I mean, they had juices and water and everything as well. And there was that, and then there were some couches behind. Yeah. Because there was a little bit of a welcome area.
Yeah, and there was couches
where you could kind of sit around and chat and talk a bit as you first came in.
Yeah.
Before going back to where everything was happening.
Wonderland.
Yeah.
So I will say, for me, it was a lot. It was very much through the looking glass.
Mm-hmm.
I felt a bit like Alice in Wonderland. It was one of those, like, everywhere you looked, there was something to see. You weren't always exactly sure what you were seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of amazed by it because I feel I'm cocky in the fact that I feel like we've seen a lot, and I know in reality we probably haven't.
Right.
But I feel like I feel like, and I say this, I'm a bit smarter than the average bear when it comes to shit like this. And I will say that I was very much taken out of my depth in a very positive way upon walking through those curtains. Because as I recall, there were parted curtains. Of course, it was open, but you were parted curtains. So it actually felt, and a couple of steps up, so it actually felt you were going on stage. And it was still like a two-story brownstone is what I would have called it in the States. But a building that was, a standard building size or apartment building wide, but pretty deep. And then they had a basement and a second story as well, so 3 total floors. But I did feel like I was kind of like swept into this other world, this magical world. And there was a lot of, I'm not going to say sexual tension, but there was definitely this wonderful tension in the air. So, all right, so you walk up those stairs, and what were your initial, once you were in the play area, and by play area I mean, so I can remember 1, 2, 3. When you first walk in, there's 3 immediate scenes.
Yeah.
There were 3 immediate scenes, like right in front of you, at the top of those stairs. 2 to your left, 1 to your right. What were your thoughts of that? So
it was almost a little overwhelming at first because there were several things going on and lots of people, and it was a bit early still, so some people were just kind of hanging around chatting and figuring things out, and then other people were going on and whatnot. But there was a pretty large St. Andrew's cross.
Right, it was the biggest one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Thank you.
Just on the right.
Yes. Yeah. And so that was there. And there were, at that point, it was early, and so there were some people kind of playing on it a little, but not too seriously
Tentatively,
yet.
I would have said, yeah.
But there was the candle that lady was going on at that time. And that was very unexpected for me. There was basically, I'm going to say a table, but it was more than a table laid out. It was a
massage table. It was basically what it was.
And then there were some bits on the ends, I guess, to hold all the candles and whatnot.
Yes.
But I don't even know who it was, but whoever, I'm going to say the artist was.
Definitely artist.
She had different candles, different colors, and I don't really know what all, but she was basically making designs on the person who was laying down on the table, and she was just drawing things on the back. And
with wax.
With the wax, from the candle wax.
And
it was amazing just to watch her, pick up a candle and drizzle the wax and draw and whatnot, and it was just.
They had a black light over the person, over the
so the colors really stood out, and it was mesmerizing.
We
really
stood
there for quite a while watching.
So the bottom's laying on the table, and they're getting the wax drizzled on them, and the one that I remember was this cute transgendered lady who was getting a butterfly put on her back.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. You know,
And
you're watching this and you're like, you're doing this from a good 16 inches. I don't know, download a Google Translate app for centimeters, from above this person's back, and you're making it was clear. It was a intricate butterfly with like the eyes where they look like birds. I mean, it was beautiful. It was stunning to see that happen, and to see it happen so quickly. And the lady that was doing it was, the word I would use is deftly. I mean, she was doing it. It was beautiful.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
And then what I thought was also neat was afterwards. And so once the design was done and the person gets up, then she's scraping it off of the back. Yeah. And so all that wax is being scraped off, and I could just feel that. And it's that feel good hurt, like, it scrapes, and so you think, ooh, that's uncomfortable, but at the same time it feels so good.
Would you want that done?
Maybe, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know.
I think I would.
We play with the candles, but we play with the soy candles, which are different. So at home we have soy candles that are basically a massage oil. So you light the candle, and it doesn't even feel that hot when it hits the wax hits your skin, and then you can just massage it in. It's a soy candle. If you've never tried one, dude, go to your local sex store, go online, find you a soy candle.
Yeah.
Epic. I would use it on myself if you weren't around. I gotta be honest. That's great. It smells good too. Anyway.
Have you ever?
No. Have you?
No.
Anyway. Yeah, I would agree. The was really pretty.
Yeah.
We should get you on the board next time.
Yeah.
Because she was taking anybody. There was a bit of a wait.
Yeah.
Each time we were there. At one point there was a 2-person deep wait.
I think so, yeah.
At one point there was nobody, but somebody had just laid down. So you would have been next. But that was, I think she was spending about 15 minutes per person.
Like you said earlier, our main, I'm going to say, purpose for this was just to check it out and see what it was like. We weren't necessarily against playing or participating, but I was more fascinated with
just exploratory.
The different facets, and I wanted to feel it out before I really delved into it.
Yeah.
Next time, I can definitely see us participating in some
I can
parts
too.
of it, but
I'd love to try to let somebody else top me.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're there for safety. You're my safety net. So let's then, so we had that front room.
Yep.
There was a back room connected to that, which was a ropes room.
Yeah, there were a couple of couches and a big, huge floor space.
Huge floor space. Apparently they do suspensions there.
We didn't see any of that.
We didn't, but if you're not familiar with suspensions, admittedly, I'm not terribly familiar with suspensions. My understanding, it's like a scene from A Man Called Horse. That ages me right there. It's a Western from the States, where you have piercings or something, and you're suspended through your piercings, or I guess you're suspended from, being tied up with rope work.
Right.
But there was a lot of people doing shibari, which is a Japanese rope work art. Admittedly, again, I don't know enough to really talk about it, other than I think it's beautiful.
And it was interesting, so I will say, watching it there was one couple in particular that we were watching. And again, it was one of those.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I felt
that was later on, though.
It was later on, but I want to go ahead and talk about it because we're in that room. But I felt a little voyeuristic at the time because just kind of standing there watching.
Yes.
But it was just absolutely fascinating because there's different ways, of course, that you can do the shibari and do the rope work. And the way that he was doing it to her, he was dominant and she was the one who was being tied up. But she was on the couch and he had already started, so she was already partially bound by the time we walked in. But he was rougher with her than other times that I've seen it done.
Yeah, he was clearly dominant.
He was very dominant, and admittedly we haven't seen it that many times and whatnot, but the times that I've seen it done, it was not necessarily slower, but maybe a little more deliberate per se. But he was a bit rougher. If you hear that in the background, Mr. Adam is.
Look, I'm decanting wine, people.
he's
She's talking. I'm decanting wine. I'm paying
decanting
attention to
wine.
her
He
because she's saying important shit.
Can't
But
do it very quietly.
come on, let's be realistic. It's wine. It's important. You gotta do
Anyway.
it right. Anyway, so sorry.
Okay.
So he was very dominant with her.
Yes,
and
he was. So as he was working on her, he was. I'm gonna just from growing up the way we did, I'm gonna say he was roughhousing her, and that
That's a good- yeah.
he would take her and like roll her over pretty gruffly on the couch or whatever. He'd like push her up this way or turn her this way or whatnot, and in order to do the ties and to wrap things how he wanted and whatnot. But at the same time, he was always checking in with her, and he would he would kind of touch her or look at her or whatever, and there were definitely cues between them to where you can tell that he was making sure that she was okay.
Yes.
And at some point she even said something to him or indicated to him, and he stopped and very gently and sweetly pulled her hair back into a ponytail, pulled it out of her face,
yes.
swept it back out of her eyes,
I'm
behind
glad you
her
said
ears.
that because that stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
I really vividly remember him throwing her around and being rough. And at one point, like they were sitting on the couch to start with. He moves the cushion of the seat cushion of the couch to the floor and pushes her down on that. And very aggressively pushes her face down into it while he's tying her down. And then at one point he said something to her he whispers it in her ear and then puts his ear next to her mouth, and then he sits her up. And in this for me it was one of those, like, it felt anachronistic. Like he pulls, I can vividly remember him. There was a strand of hair in her face.
Yeah.
And he very gently moves that strand of hair behind her ear.
Pulls it behind her ear.
Pulls it behind her ear, and then both of his hands over her face to pull off any other little hairs, and then tuck them behind her ears. And then he looked at her and said, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And she went, "Thank you." That was it. And I think she even giggled a bit, and he goes, "Are we okay?" And she says, "Yes." And then it was boom.
It was back
the
on.
switch is back flipped. And I love that. That to me, I don't think enough of the world sees that. We see stupid shit like 50 Shades of Grey, where it is this. You have a contract that you signed, and this is just how it is, and I'm not going to check in with you. You're just going to fucking accept that's how it is. When in fact it's this.
There's constant checking in,
constant communication, and it's such a beautiful. S&M is such a beautiful art. To see that happen, and I guess that's not even really S&M. That's BD. So it's and for those who don't know, BDSM. Let's see if I can massacre this enough. You have bondage, dominance, domination, submission, and then also the S can stand for sadist and masochism. So it sort of covers that whole group of wonderful folks, and we have a bad habit of when you hear sadist, you assume that person only does bad things, and it's within a.
People think negatively.
Yeah, you think negatively of it, but it's not like that at all. Going to Tryst was one of those. Even knowing how it worked, to actually see how something works, you can know how an engine works, but until you actually take an engine apart and see how it works, you don't actually understand it. And that was for me. Going to Tryst was one of those great moments where I sort of saw how the engine works. And
I think one thing too, in looking at all the different scenes that we saw, everything that was going on, you see the domination a lot.
Yes.
But you also see the discipline in it.
Yeah,
and
that's a really good point.
And that's a very fine line that that you have to walk, because there are rules, spoken and unspoken, and there is that constant checking in with your partner to see if they're okay, to make sure that you're not going too far.
Yeah.
Do we want to go back to the ropes? Or do we want to move on upstairs?
No, I think that's enough, because I'm very happy with. I think that's.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on that enough. I'm still amazed by it, because I loved it. And I remember
it was mesmerizing. We just
watching
stood there
that couple.
for
I think
how
we
long,
stood there
but
for a good solid 10, maybe 15 minutes,
Probably.
staring and watching
Yeah.
them. And it was, again, for me, it was one of those things. It was one of those things I really needed to see.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go to the shorter one. We went upstairs.
Yep.
Upstairs, I recall 3 rooms and then restrooms. So the first scene room was apparently so Tryst can do, and I think this should be said as well. Excuse me. Some of the play work, and I know that the candles had this, or the waxwork, and I know that this next room I'm going to talk about had this. You had to have somebody, in order to do the play, you had to have somebody that was sort of part of the facility or part of the group of this Tryst.
Like a facilitator type person.
Yeah, to watch to make sure that you were doing it properly.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous. Wax can hurt somebody and scar somebody. So you had to have somebody with you to do this.
Monitors?
I
don't know what to call
That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
And I think that may be actually what it's called. But upstairs, the first room that they had was a blood room. So it was a hospital gurney, and it actually looked like a checkup room.
And it had the curtain around it.
And it had a plastic curtain around it
draw.
that you could draw that was from normal people's eye level down, opaque, and then had about a bit of a head size gap that you could look and watch whatever was going on.
So those of us who are a little shorter had to stand on tippy toes.
Yeah, Mrs. Adam, would have had to be lifted up to see what was going on in there. So this is for needle play, for any kind of blood play. That's what this room was for. I'm not going to say this, but I'm going to speak for Mrs. Adam when I say, unfortunately, nothing was going on in that room that night.
I was really curious about that, and I would love to see it at some point. We talked to some people who go fairly regularly, and they say it's pretty hit and miss. Sometimes there's people playing up there, and sometimes there's not. This particular time there weren't, so we missed out. Yeah. Perhaps on a future visit we'll get to see it. I would really like that. I know Mr. Adam doesn't necessarily, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but
I see enough blood in my life.
And that's fine. But I'm really curious about that. All that was going on up there this time, though, was a lot of spanking.
Yeah, a little spanking, a little girl on girl action. Nothing terribly exciting. Yeah. But it was an interesting room.
I would like to see it used for its purpose.
It's intimidating for me. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very comfortable with needles. I'm very comfortable with blood. That's my own. You can stick me I can stick me as much as I want, or if you're a doctor, you can stick me as much as you want. I don't know, if you're a sexy fella, you can stick me as much. Anyway, if you're a attractive woman with a strap on, you can stick. But I digress. But no, I didn't. That's actually something that I'm not interested in seeing. I'm not interested in seeing somebody else hurt somebody in that fashion.
And I can't say that I don't know until I'm in that scenario, but I can't say that I would want to participate in it, but I would love to see it.
Wait. Are you saying that would you want to top someone in that way, or would you want to bottom in that way?
I don't know. I'm not usually the bottoming type, but it is a bit curious. I would tend to say more top, except that I have no idea what I'm doing, so I would need some
So if
clear
somebody would
instruction
train
first.
you in how to poke somebody with needles and cut them in proper, safe ways, you would want to learn how to do that?
Potentially. It's intriguing. I'd like
We've got to get you a job as a madam or a
I'd like to try it. I don't
dominatrix.
I mean, until I try it, I don't know if I'd like it or not. But it's intriguing to me,
it's
for
fascinating.
sure.
I have no interest in doing that. I know, and me, Mrs. Adam and I consider ourselves trisexuals. We'll try anything. I can say that I'm not interested in trying that. I can't say that I like it or don't like it because I refuse to try it. But that's something that I'm not interested in trying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I would need some serious training, but it goes back to, I don't know. Yeah, I think it would be interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So the next couple of rooms. I know there was a room that had a small St. Andrew's cross and a little bed in it.
Yeah.
I got the feeling that was a sex room. Like
Yeah.
you go in there and you kind of fool around. Every time that we were up there, and I should note that I think we went up and down those stairs probably no less than 10 times, because we kept looking just to see. I mean, it was
Yeah.
one of those. It was like, ooh, what's next? Ooh, what's next? What's going
Because
on?
people were moving around
Yeah,
and
people were
whatnot,
moving
and
around a
so
lot.
it was interesting.
And
you
we
know,
were there for a good 4 hours.
Yeah, and so it was more of a just wander around and see who's where now, who's doing what.
Yeah.
Is there something we want to watch? Or
But there was
Yeah.
always somebody in there doing shibari work
Yeah.
and some serious rope work. I don't know if sex was involved, but I know that the door was open,
Yeah.
and it was just one of those things that we would peek in and look a little. And then beyond that was the restrooms.
Mhm.
So that's all that was on the top floor. Shall we go into the dungeon?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called. I
Yep.
didn't just make that shit up. It's called the dungeon.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go down.
Yeah, let's go down. Ooh, I love you. So you go down the stairs into their dungeon. They had, it wasn't a St. Andrew's cross, but it was something that was in that style where you put your arms up and get bound and then get whipped or spanked or whatever, flogged. That was the first thing that was in the basement. The basement was very much a classic basement, with like stone walls.
It was fairly
and-
small.
Yeah, it was tight. You go up a small set of stairs from the place where you get bound. The not St. Andrew's cross. I don't know what it was. Anyway, you would go up 2 or 3 stairs, and I remember to the right was a large kennel or cage that was just about human size. I say just about because I think you're meant to be uncomfortable if you're put in there. There was a massage table, as you would see in any massage parlor.
And across from the massage table was a bench.
Was a bench, yes, so you could sit
Yeah.
and watch whatever
Yeah.
was going on. And that bench sort of went in a big L.
Yeah.
And then near the end was if you're Catholic, you know exactly what this is. It was a prayer pew that was commonly put in front of candles, so you could light a candle, kneel down, and pray.
Not in this case.
Not in this case, but again, back to that Catholic
Upbringing.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. I saw that thing and I was like, well, that opens up some wounds. But we sat down there and watched a lady who was being topped by someone who I am near certain wasn't her primary partner.
No, I don't think it was her primary partner.
I'll let you tell this story and then I'll react to it because, as I recall, I think it's easier for you to recount this than it is probably for me.
Perhaps. So she was laying on the massage table, and he was, for lack of a better term, he was wailing on her.
Good word.
I mean, I can't. Was he using a flogger?
I feel like he had a belt.
No, I was gonna say it wasn't a flogger and
I
it
think
wasn't a whip. It was
I think
something
it was a
else.
belt. I think
Okay.
it was a belt.
It was something. It was a single.
One of those wide 3-finger
Yeah.
leather belts.
That's what I would guess because it wasn't as thin as a whip, but it wasn't as multi-pronged as a flogger.
Yeah.
I don't recall exactly now what it was, but let's say it was a belt or something along those lines. But he whipped her. I mean, hard, and he was not
like he was angry with her.
He was not necessarily a small guy either.
No, he was 1.5 to twice my size.
Yeah, he had some good muscles on him, but he whipped her so hard. And to me, it's fascinating because you could see, I mean, I'm sure it hurt. It had to have hurt, but she was clearly enjoying it. And
Clearly, that's I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
she wanted it.
Yes.
She wanted it done. There was no question about that. She never said a safe word. It was clear that they were experienced. But to say she was enjoying it, that's different. There are things that I want that I don't enjoy. Even that you and I do.
I would say she enjoyed it because she would look up from time to time as if she wanted more.
Yeah, with tears in her eyes.
Not always.
But the point is, again, there's that fine line between want and enjoy, and I know that line. You want to please your partner. You want, and that's like, for me, like spanking and being topped by other men, that for me is I'm longing to please the person. I don't like. I'm not always enjoying of it. Does that make sense?
No. Then
The
why do
enjoyment,
it?
the positivity and the enjoyment I get out of it is pleasing the other person. That's what I'm longing for. Is that
So you're saying that you don't always physically enjoy it?
correct? Let's
Then why do it?
because you want that you want that positivity of pleasing the other person.
What if they knew that you didn't enjoy it at that moment? You may sometimes, but not at that moment. Then do you think they would still enjoy it as much?
Well, I don't know. That's why you don't let that part show. No, I mean, I have bottomed for guys, and I use this as the perfect example because we don't have as much experience in the kink world. But I have bottomed for men that I am not doing it because I necessarily enjoy it, but I'm doing it because I want approval or to make them happy.
Okay.
And that's...
So it's a matter of which is more important to you.
Yeah. And the pleasure I'm getting is either out of making that person happy or getting some sort of approval out of it. That the fact that they're in control is what is the positivity I get, is the positive feeling I get out of it.
Right.
Submitting is part of it. And so that's what I saw from her.
Okay.
It's not necessarily an enjoyment. Maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe I could be completely misreading it. I will admit that. But what I saw was not that she was doing it because it physically felt good, but doing it because she enjoyed the emotional release that comes with it, but B, the fulfillment of knowing that you're pleasing somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. Does it make sense really? Because you're looking at me like I'm from fucking Mars.
No, it does. But yeah, so he
was wailing on her.
He was, but he would stop every now and again. He would check in with her, and then there was another guy who was sitting on that bench across from it, and he would come up from time to time, lean over very close, pet her head,
whisper in her ear.
Yeah, whisper in her ear, and I mean, I don't know what was going on.
I feel like he was her primary partner.
That's what I would guess.
That's what I felt like. He was her primary partner, and the other was a bondage cuckold.
That's what I would guess.
He was a bull.
Unless,
had to be.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I got. And maybe I'm wrong.
I would agree with that. The only question I have would be at the end. I'm not sure. That's what my only question about, was he the primary partner or not?
What, the little guy?
Yeah.
Why?
Because at the end, when they were done and she rolled over and, sat up a little bit, and it took her a long time to get off the table.
Yeah.
She just sat there for a long time, but the one who was Dom was the one who was comforting her.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
It does, but the one who's the supposed primary partner didn't come over, and if it were you, I would go over.
It's different. And it goes back to that wanting to get approval from the person who's giving you pain.
But would you not want your primary partner there?
No.
That seems weird to me.
I wouldn't. So
you wouldn't want both. Why would you not want them both there?
Okay, if you were both there, that's okay. But
that's what I'm thinking, is you'd both be there.
But let's take an imagined situation where I'm the lady on the massage table, and I'm getting the absolute shit beat out of me. For me personally, after that's done, if you were there, that'd be great. But you're not my focus at that point. My focus is the Dom. So I would seek that comfort and approval from him or her. And so if you've never been whipped or you've never been spanked or whatever, and your mileage may vary. It depends on who you are. Everybody experiences this stuff differently. But for me, when I'm trying to get back to that normal, which I feel like right now I'm at normal. So you hit me a few times, and I start with every hit, I get away from normal for me. When I'm trying to get back to normal, I want the approval and the comfort of the person who hit me, not my primary partner. So if I was being dommed by somebody else, then I would seek their approval and comfort, not yours. If you were there, that'd be great. But that's not who I need to bring me back to zero.
Yeah, I see that. But, and it may just be me personally, I would also want to know that you were there overseeing it, and you being there next to me tells me that you're there overseeing, not you're way on the other side of the room.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to control. Who is in control? You know, as soon as you pop up, suddenly you're showing, you're expressing control.
Yeah.
And it's very, I don't, like, let's say if it was you and me, and I'm the guy on the bench, I don't have control. If somebody's hitting you, as much as I'd want, if somebody's hitting you and knowing that you want it, that you're wanting to sub for this scene, it'd be very hard for me to step in and stop that. You know, somebody else has control. You are giving that person control, which is something that we possibly should have talked about early on in this podcast, which is, you know, the sub, no matter what people in the vanilla world think, the sub has all the control and all the power. All it takes is a single word, and the entire scene stops and everybody rushes over. When you say a safe word, people drop everything and run over to you. But beyond that, you know, during the play, it's you're seeking your dom's. I'm seeking my dom's approval and safety and whatever. I don't care about my primary partner. It's weird. It's such a different dynamic because you're my primary partner, and oftentimes you're my dom.
Right.
But if someone else were to, it's so confusing. I even lose myself. But if someone else were to dom me, I'd want their approval, not yours.
Right.
You're special and you're important, but GTFO. I need the person who is in charge right now to set me back to zero. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was hard for me to watch. I found myself getting emotional, to be honest. There was a lady who was sitting watching it who was in tears. Yeah. And I think it might have been a bit of her, and it was probably watching the whole thing, but I at times was fighting back tears from this, and I actually feel myself getting a bit emotional now over it, which is to me one of those beautiful things that is, sidebar, I am the emotional freak of our relationship, but I like that. I'm okay with that. You know, I'm thinking back on that, and I'm feeling myself get like a bit misty over some random woman who I still have no idea any other information than we've told you now.
Nope.
But to feel like you're tied to that person or have some sort of emotional connection to the person, it was intense for me. It was really intense.
Yep.
I love it. Yep.
I'm not the emotional one.
I
look at it from a very clinical point of view,
but do you understand where I'm coming from? Or do you think I'm silly?
No.
Am I being silly? I guess.
No, I get it. I understand. Yeah. I also think it was interesting that while we were sitting there watching this, another couple came downstairs, and they
were on your side, so I didn't hear a lot of this.
Okay, they were on my side of they were sitting to my left, I guess, on the bench, and they were very clearly not a couple. It was pretty obvious this was the first time they had met, was that night. I guess that's where those wristbands for,
that's right,
dumb, sub, top, bottom, whatever, come in handy. But they were waiting for the prayer bench little thing, I don't know what to call it, but they were waiting basically because it was right next to the massage table, and so they were kind of waiting for all of that scene to be over before going to the prayer bench part. But the whole time they were discussing limits and boundaries, and this is what I like, this is what I don't like, I don't do this, I do this, blah blah blah, and And so they were discussing what was okay and what was not okay for quite a while. And then they were even discussing what was going on the massage table. And, is that something that you like? Is it not what you like? And I think they were just really feeling out boundaries before they ever got to play, which is very important and very typical. But it was, just having that communication as to what I like, what I don't like, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, before you ever start is necessary. You have to have that.
That communication is key.
Yeah.
And it's, we've talked about this a lot, consent and communication. And, I remember you telling me about that, and I could see the conversation that was going on between this couple, and it was clearly intense.
Yeah.
And clearly important. Because let's be realistic. When you want to hit somebody and you want to be hit, it's very important to know your lines and boundaries.
And you want it to be in the right way.
And everybody is different,
I mean, like you like to have your ass hit, not necessarily your back.
Yeah, stay away from my back.
So,
I don't mind my upper thighs. I want slap my ass, but
you have a narrow range.
I do. I have a pretty narrow range.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm on a cross, it's different. But if we're just you and I in the bedroom, I like straight spankings. Yeah. You can wail on my ass. It doesn't beat the shit out of me, and I'm okay with it. But if you go, 2 hands width beneath my butt, or a single hand width above, that's where I'm starting to get. I'm more likely to say the safe word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we have a safe word, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So it's important, though, to have those discussions, and I think it was refreshing to see that happening, because what happens. Before,
it was nice to see it happen, though.
But we had come in, I would say most of the scenes we came into after they had started.
Yes,
that's
correct.
And so we didn't see that. This was the first one that was like, okay, you see it happening beforehand. Yeah. And so while it's obvious that it's there, it was still just kind of good to see. Yeah. And
So it was intense.
Yeah.
I found that watching them, and I think we watched them for probably 20 to 25 minutes, would be my guess. It was a while. It was emotionally and actually physically draining for me. I could tell you were getting kind of charged by it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was rough. I don't know. So as we were leaving that area, there was a fella that was tied to the initial cross at the bottom of the stairs. And this is just a side note that I think is funny. They were using one of those multi-prong, 5 to 7 prong head massagers, scalp massagers on him. And they're doing that, and I look at, there was a man doing it to him, and then a lady as well. There was 2 people who were topping this guy, and I remember looking at one of them. I don't remember which one it was. It may have been the gentleman, because we had spoken to him a bit before, because he was keen on you. He thought you were just the bee's knees. But he looks at us and goes, yeah, he hates that thing. and I remember thinking, who could hate one of those things? I love the scalp massagers.
Those know. They feel fantastic.
So... but yeah, so they were torturing him with a scalp massager, which again, your mileage may vary. What one man's trash is another man's treasure, and vice versa. So.
Yep.
But yeah, so we walked up the stairs, and we wandered about back and forth between the different areas and looked around for a bit. We talked to a few folks, but I think, is there anything else? Did we miss anything?
Not until just before we left, back on the cross.
Yes, tell that. That was good. And you tell that well. So I'll let you.
So before we left, we were back in the candle area, the big St. Andrew's cross, right as you kind of more towards the entryway part of the building, on the main level. And so we were back there, and there was still some candle work going on, so we kind of watched that for a minute. And then we noticed that there was some pretty intense play going on the cross. And there was a lady who was tied up, very attractive lady, I thought. Not necessarily my usual type, but I don't know, something about her, I thought was very attractive. And so she was tied up to the cross, and there was, again, a fairly good-sized, gruff, buff kind of guy who was dominating her.
Dude, he looked like a biker dude.
He looked like
me.
a biker dude.
Fantastic dude.
But intriguing guy. He was one of those. I
agree.
Honestly, the entire scene, the two of them, individually, together, all of it, I just couldn't take my eyes off of them.
Yeah.
It was just
I get that.
fascinating. Like, I could just watch him for hours. I could watch her for hours. It was just fascinating.
He was definitely doing art.
Oh, he was. And he had a flogger at the time. And he was so good with it. Clearly very, very experienced. And he would alternate between kind of gentle, repetitive hitting, kind of patting of her, to all out, letting it all go kind of thing. And so it was that roughness, there was some gentleness, and then, again, every now and again he would check in with her and kind of go up and rub her back a little and whatnot. And then he would come back and he would just let loose on her. Every now and again, after kind of a really intense session, he would kind of step back and she would count down, 10, 9, 8, 7, and just count down. And when she got to 1, she was kind of like, and you could hear the deep breath, and then he'd start back up. And it was kind of just a bit of a break. And then whenever she, got to that point, then they would back in the zone, focus back onto it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was intense, and there were times that she was wailing and moaning, and
she sounded animalistic at times.
Very animalistic.
Like it was amazing to hear her, because she was panting and growling actually, and she sounded animalistic.
Yeah.
Like I was like, whoa, that's.
But it was so intriguing to me to sit there, and like I said, it was just enthralling. Like that's all I could focus on was them and that.
Mrs.
And
Adam
what was happening.
drooling a little.
Yeah, a little.
I couldn't tell if she wanted to be the top guy or the bottom guy.
But it was, and at the end though, and it was really interesting to me when they finished. So he finished. He untied her whenever it was all done. He untied her, and she sat down on a chair or bench or something that was there, stool or something.
Cross. Yeah.
Yeah. So she sat down, kind of almost collapsed onto it. And
her ass was red. Her back and ass and shoulders, everything on her backside was red.
Yeah. And so she kind of collapsed onto the seat, whatever it was, and he knelt down in front of her, and two of them were forehead to forehead, bowed down, into each other, and they did that countdown
from 15.
From 15, it was from 15 this time, not 10. And so they did the countdown, and after it was done, he stood up, turned around, and walked away. And she kind of very slowly lifted her head, looked around the room, and just had this big grin on her face.
Yeah, I know she caught your eye. Because I remember you saying she caught my eye, and she just smiled at me.
She just has this grin, and it was like
it was ecstasy.
It was like she was into herself, but at the same time, for the first time, she was seeing the room as if she'd been in her own little world.
It was beautiful.
And for the first time, she's looking around at what else is going on, and it was just, again, that couple was one it was hard for me to take my eyes away from.
Yeah, that was was fun. Yeah, I forgot about them.
Mm-hmm. And that was right before we left.
Yeah, and so after that we. I think our friends had already left at that point because they were like, "Oh, we're gonna leave," and we're like, "Yeah, we're gonna keep looking around," because we were amazed.
Yeah.
And I'd love to go back. I actually would.
Oh, we will.
I'm not sure again that I'd want to play.
Depends.
I need to find somebody who I trust.
Yeah.
So it may be somebody who can show you some different ropes. I don't know, something like that. That'd be great. But it was a good. It was good. I enjoyed it. So. That was our experience at Tryst, and
we'll definitely be back because it was interesting. It was fun. I wouldn't mind making some more contacts and perhaps starting to play a little bit, even if it's just peripherally or lightly or whatnot. But I think it could be very interesting. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah. That was our experience at Tryst. So we're running longer than we expected. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this into a 2-part. So we're going to I know, right? Session 1 and Session 2. We're going to continue this for us tonight, but for you it'll be probably in in a week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. We haven't decided how often we're going to try to do this. But
you have to be patient.
Yeah, you're going to have to sit back and wait a little while, because next up on our next episode, we're going to go through some kinks in general that we've done, and we're going to talk about some kinks that we have no idea what they are. Mrs. Adam has a couple of kinks that she's going to try to quiz me on to see if I know what the fuck they are. Probably don't.
Most of them don't actually have very fancy names. I could only find a few. But,
so join us next time. We're gonna talk about some of our the kinks that we try, that we like, and that we we do around the house. If you're looking for us, you can find us on Twitter at The Atoms of Love. Please send us your emails. You can reach us at theatomsoflove@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page that I still don't fucking know what it is, but it's something like By the By Podcast. I don't know. Search for that. I haven't really posted anything at this point, but maybe by the time we upload this podcast, I'll have put something on there. Heck, I don't know. We have a profile picture.
Right. We should at least have podcast notifications.
Sure, we should. We should have podcast. That's correct. We should do that.
Do I need to be in charge of this one?
That would be awesome. If you take some of the pressure off of our marketing department. Our marketing department is swamped.
They need to outsource a bit.
We really need to outsource our marketing.
Yeah.
You can find us on the interwebs, www.bytheby.com.au, and we really appreciate you guys listening to us.
Thanks for listening.
Join us next time when we talk about our kinky little thing called love.